Hello, and welcome to Vision Denial and World Watch 2022. My name is Sam, and if those of you who are new here, I have watched every single playoff of 2022. Yes, every single one of them, even that one. Notably, this particular series we were covering the summer of 2022 on our anticipation and preparation for Worlds. And this you have stumbled upon, or you are a regular subscriber and watcher, to the Meet the Teams portion, where I will take a look at every 24 team, their strengths, weaknesses, play styles, notable quirks, interesting things to look ahead, all in the attempts to at least teach some people who don't watch certain regions what to expect from their teams, or from the teams that are going. That said, there are two caveats to really put forward. First caveat: a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about are data-driven. I will put a link down below to the Google Docs of all of the data I have aggregated all in one nice spot. All of the data comes from the LOL fandom, Wikipedia, and from the goal.gg website, both of which have very different focuses to their data points, and both are necessary for these kinds of videos to work. That said, there's a limitation to some of this data because the LPL doesn't send their data as consistently as the other regions, and this is something you'll find with any particular data point for LoL esports globally. The LPL will still be missing some things regarding plates, drakes at 15 minutes, and heralds. A lot of their early game is not there. That and everything relating to vision. Second thing that I have to point out, a lot of the emerging regions, specifically Oceania, Turkey, Brazil, Latin America, and Japan, their teams will have some inflated stats in their favor. That being in mind, when we're looking at their stats, a lot of them will look good, notably the Chiefs and Detonation Focus Me. So some of the stats for every team has to be taken with a grain of salt of either being maybe stronger than expected or weaker than expected by quite a bit, notably because of this kind of inflation of statistics. When you're studying data, this is the kind of adjustments you need to do. That said, team-based data will look skewed. Individual data for each player's less so, because of the kinds of data points that they keep track of. All of that to say is that a lot of the notes that I've taken are using data points that have been collected that you can all enjoy for free down below, or in the various websites that I mentioned, but taking into account a lot of the personal notes that I use in conjunction with this data to show you what to expect with these teams. Without further ado, let's take a look at this video's team. I don't know. This is a pre-recorded message. Let's take a look. Let's meet Loud. The Brazilian representatives here from the CBLOL were the 19th team to qualify for Worlds after defeating Pain Gaming in a clean 3-0 sweep in the Revenge and Grand Finals. Let's meet their coaches here. Vaughn here has been part of the coaching scene between Brazil and Latin America for quite some time, since 2014. Previously having been part of the coaching staff for Infinity from the 2021 season in its entirety, comes to Loud and is honestly fairly commendable. Him with his assistant coach Belzi here, who also was part of a number of Brazilian teams beforehand in Furia before joining Loud. These two coaches together have created a fairly stable team. This is to say, this isn't like a completely dominant one-sided team against the region. No, they came in as the 4th seed for the playoffs in Split 2 and ended up winning off of quite a large comeback. Now, while their competition was not consistent, they themselves are. having fantastic vision that rivals some of the top teams, and very good approach to neutral objectives. The only difference here is that their approach tends to also be heavy in fights, and they are not as strong in terms of team fighting. Very bloody, but dies frequently. And so while they may have some troubles doing a lot of contests against some of these international teams, their application and consistency in terms of setting up for these neutrals in these contests is commendable and not something to be underestimated. I would not be surprised if they get a couple of wins as upsets. Let's meet Loud's top laner, Robo. Robo here has been part of the Brazilian scene since 2014, and having previously been part of Pain Gaming for the summer of 2022, the entirety of 2021 season, joins Loud in the 2022 season as more of a carry top laner. And those are not as common in Worlds this year, but he makes it work. Holding in a very above average gold per minute, CS per minute, kill share and gold share percentage based off of his other contemporaries. Just a quick look at his champion roster and you can tell very teamfight oriented in some, but not as tanks, but as carries. The fact that one of his top played is Olaf tells you everything you need to know. He's ready to kick some butt and take some names. And while I don't know if he'll necessarily be able to keep that up in the international scene at Worlds, they may still play for this angle and it may catch people out. And honestly, I want them to do it. Robo, please. I want to see you stomp some faces in. Do it. Let's meet Loud's jungler, Croc. Croc has had a very interesting history. He is primarily a Korean player who made his debut in China with LGD Gaming back in 2017, joining then Rampage Quintet in Japan, then Chiefs Esports Club in the 2020 season, and then going to Brazil since then in the 2021 summer season, going from Renska Esports, Netshoes Miners, and then joining Loud for the summer of 2022 season. And honestly, I think this was a good switch. Croc is a fairly middling jungler given stats-wise, but he is also consistent in terms of keeping up with attempting to make plays, trying to make sure that his solo laners and his bot laner are able to play to the level that they need, especially given how aggressive Robo is. And honestly, kudos to Croc who keeps things up, but, and this is a fairly major factor here, his kill participation and his gold per minute are fairly high, primarily because of the players around him. If we take that away and we notice the gold share is fairly low comparatively to other junglers, and we can see that he spends more time specifically trying to get his laners ahead than himself, and that is a very easy place to exploit him. Do I know if any players are going to be consistent enough to do that? Not so sure. He has a lot of backing support from his solo laners in and of itself, so it will be very hard to find that angle of attack. But I digress. Croc is a consistent player, and consistency sometimes is the only thing you need. Let's meet Loud's mid laner, tinowns. Tinowns, who was primarily known for being part of Pain Gaming and had been from 2018 all the way till the end of 2021 before joining Loud in 2022. And tinowns is a rather impressive case study here. His team is not the most competitive. In fact, they squeaked by on a lot of occasions, but yet we see a KDA that's the second highest amongst all mid laners, and a gold per minute that's above average, like by a significant margin within the top 10s. And then you look at a CS per minute and it's fairly low. And there's part of you that realizes, or part of me at least, that realizes that this is a very strong 1v1 player. He will find any angle to attack you, or to attack an opponent who is stepping out of lines just enough to really trigger any fight. His champion pool really indicates zone control, picks, assassinate. Easy peasy. And honestly, kudos to him. Whether or not he'll still be able to compete with that kind of level or like keep up the pressure against many of these other terrifying mid laners will be left up in the air. But he has a very low champion pool count, and that sometimes can be easily pinched at any given moment. Only time will tell. Let's meet Loud's bot laner, Brance. Brance over here has been part of the Loud organization since the 2021 season, and you might be asking yourself, well, why hasn't he been playing earlier? Well, he joined the summer season for 2022 as he turned 18 in February. This is his rookie year on the big stage, and having qualified for Worlds is already huge as a career. And honestly, looking at his stats, given that he's not like in a region where there's no competition and things are inflated, the competition is fierce in the CBLOL regarding the bot laners. And he's pulling up some numbers that are crazy. The issue here, however, is that they're mostly fighting. His kill share is high or really above average. His kill participation is severely above average. His KDA equally above average, just shy underneath the ruler. And he's got a fairly good spread of champions. But then you look at his CS per minute and his gold per minute, and it just doesn't match with the rest of his contemporaries. And so a major concern going into the international stage is if he can't keep up, if he loses out a fight, if he starts falling behind in any way, shape, or form, can he recover? Or does he have a hard time accumulating gold outside of kills and is unable to actually perform? That'll be a really interesting question to see. He is fairly young. Maybe he has a lot of tenacity. Maybe he crumbles under pressure. Only time will tell as he faces off some of the strongest in his role. Meet the support player of Loud, Seos. Seos has been part of the Brazilian scene since 2015-ish, having gone through a bunch of teams before joining Kaboom in the summer of 2019 and then eventually joining Loud in the 2021 season. And Seos is an efficient support. He ties last for the amount of gold share percentages compared to other support players, and with the little amount of resources he has, he manages to do a lot in terms of kill participation as well as in terms of vision. Loud as a team's vision control and vision denial is excellent, especially around neutral objectives, and part of that is just the approach that Seos has in enabling his teammates from being able to properly team fight and have that zone control, but also just in general with the aid of Croc manipulating around the map to get that kind of vision denial through. Seos is frankly doing a lot with very little, and while the rest of his stats may look average, if not below average, I think that's a sign of how aggressive his team is when necessary and them needing to reel things back a little bit when they need to. Loud as an organization and a team in Brazil was rather surprising in a fresh scent, or like in a breath of fresh air. Mostly because Brazil has a tendency to have teams who qualify going in guns blazing, a very just team fight centered team. And Loud decides to join the international scene as a team who, with vision control and steady timing and consistency around neutral objectives and sometimes side lane control, really find their opportunities to then pick a bloody fight. So it's still a bloody fight, but it's a little bit more reserved and control, and I like that style. The issue that comes across for me here is that that style over here may have a harder time against teams like Fnatic, Beyond Gaming, Detonation Focus Me, Chiefs, who all have a fairly aggressive attitude or are very good at making sure to contest vision in their own rights, or at least within their own regions. And as such, I don't expect Loud to make it out of play-ins into a group stage, but I do expect them to have some upsets. If not straight out, I do think that they have a chance of being slightly better than the Chiefs and Beyond Gaming. Detonation focused me a little less, but it would not surprise me if they got wins off of them. So there is some hope. I don't think it's a guarantee they get out of play-ins. I think there's a lot of work that would be needed to do so, but I do see them a chance of winning 2, maybe 3 games. Time will tell. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you have hope that Loud will actually make it out of groups? Or make it into groups? Or do you think that this is just going to be another year where Brazil maybe gets 1, 2 wins at best? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Those are mostly what my observations are from watching all the playoffs and the stats in front of me. If you're interested in more of this stuff, I've got other videos with all the other teams that qualified. If you want to watch how Loud qualified with their playoffs, or if you want to see supercuts of every single playoff games. Heck, even the thoughts that I've had over the last 6 weeks that I took to watch all the single one of these playoffs. Anything is going to be on the screen. Editing me will put it somewhere. With that, if you like this kind of content, leave a like and subscribe. Thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it. And with that, I'll see you next time.